All right, let's dive into a story that, well, it's one of those that really sticks with you. It starts with a cold case, something from way back in the 80s, and it ends with a question that is just genuinely terrifying. This is the story of an investigative journalist and what turned out to be her final chilling investigation. So, how did this whole thing start? It all kicked off with just one sentence, buried deep in an anonymous tip. But what a sentence it was! A horrifying claim about a remote island, some kind of hidden complex, and these sadistic games where the stakes were literally life and death. This wasn't just another story lead. It felt different. It felt like a ghost from the past, kind of whispering about some unspeakable truth. And who received this whisper? A woman named Sujin. Now, Sujin wasn't your typical journalist, chasing the big headlines. Her whole thing was digging up the stories that people wanted to stay forgotten, the truths that someone had worked really hard to bury. And this story? Oh, man, this was way too dark and frankly, way too strange to just ignore. Okay, so what makes this email so compelling, right? It's that it wasn't just some vague accusation. Not at all. It was like a trail of breadcrumbs, laid out perfectly. It had an old news clipping from 1986. It even named some high-level officials. And this is the kicker. It included the exact GPS coordinates to some remote, unnamed island. I mean, this was basically a direct invitation right into the heart of the mystery. So just think about the timeline here for a second. We're talking about something that happened decades ago. This case was ice cold. And then, bam, one single email just resurrects it all, dropping this forgotten horror right into Sujin's lap. For her, there really wasn't a choice, was there? She had to go. She had to see for herself what secrets that island was hiding. Okay, so she does it. Sujin gets a small boat and heads for those coordinates all by herself. She's completely determined to find this complex and figure out what's going on. But, well, from the very second she sets foot on that shore, it becomes pretty clear the island has other plans for her. Right away, the island just feels wrong, hostile. Her phone, which had a full charge, just dies, completely dead. Then a violent storm just rolls in out of nowhere. And then she hears it, these agonizing screams coming from deep inside the forest. So she runs towards the sound, but it just stops, gone, as suddenly as it started. And that's when she sees her, a thin girl just watching her from behind a tree. And then poof, she's gone, vanished. At this point, she's completely unnerved, obviously. Her head starts to spin, the world kind of warps around her, and that's it. She collapses, out cold in the middle of this silent forest. She came to this place looking for a story, but the island just made her part of it. Okay, and this is where the story takes a really terrifying turn. Because when Sujin wakes up, she's not in the forest anymore. She's inside the complex. The very same one she was looking for. And the horror she's about to witness, it's so much worse than any old news clipping could ever describe. So she wakes up in this pitch black room, hears these strange noises outside, so she opens the door, and she finds herself looking into this absolutely massive hall, and it is filled with people, maybe 50 or 60 of them, all with their hands and feet bound. They're surrounded by these armed, masked guards who are forcing them to run. She didn't just find the story, she literally stumbled right into the middle of the games. And the sheer sadism of it all is it's breathtaking. The game they're playing is called the Lemon Race. I mean, it's this incredibly twisted version of a kid's party game. The rule is so simple. Balance a lemon on a spoon you're holding in your mouth while you run. And the penalty if you drop it? Instant death. A guard just shoots you on the spot. No hesitation. And there, in the crowd of players, Sujin sees her. It's the same girl from the forest. As the girl is running, she stumbles, and the lemon just tumbles from her spoon, and it lands right there at Sujin's feet. And before anyone can even process what's happening, a gunshot rings out. The girl just falls. Her body hits the floor right in front of Sujin. So Sujin's just reeling, staring at this body on the floor. And then the impossible happens. The dead girl's eyes snap open. But they're not her eyes anymore. Her whole face starts to warp and change right there in front of her. The real nightmare, it turns out, was just getting started. In a split second, the entire scene just dissolves. The guards, the players, even the other bodies on the floor, they all start to rise. Their faces turn this ghastly dark color, and their eyes are glowing this terrifying white. These aren't people, they're spirits, and every single one of them turns and stares directly at Sujin. Somehow, and it's not clear how, Sujin manages to escape that hall of horrors. She gets out of the complex, she gets off the island. But just surviving, that only leaves her with more questions than answers. She has to figure out what was real. She has to make sense of the impossible things she just saw. So back in the safety of her own home, her whole investigation boils down to 3 huge questions. 1, who sent that email and lured her to the island in the first place? 2, how in the world did she wake up inside a complex that should have been locked and abandoned for decades? And 3, the most important one, who was that girl? The ghost at the center of this whole nightmare. That girl's face is just haunting her, right? So Sujin starts digging through old reader mail, just looking for anything. And she finds it. A letter from about a year ago. It's from a young man, and he's pleading for help finding his missing fiancée. Her name was Kim. And the last place they were seen together, you guessed it, that exact same island. And then comes the final, absolutely chilling piece of the puzzle. Attached to the letter is a photograph, a photo of the missing woman, Kim. And it's her. It is the same girl from the forest, the same girl she watched die in that phantom game. So now we're looking at a paradox, right? The original tip was all about games that happened in 1986, but Kim, the girl Sujin saw with her own eyes, she only went missing last year. And this leads to an absolutely horrifying conclusion. The games never actually stopped. They're still happening. With this terrible realization, Sujin goes straight to the police. She lays out all her evidence, and finally, a full-scale search of the island is launched. And what they found, buried underneath that complex, well, it was a testament to decades of silent slaughter. So they start digging under the building's foundation, and they find a mass grave. Inside were the skeletons of over 1,000 people. I mean, just imagine that. The sheer scale of the killing was staggering. It was far, far beyond what anyone could have possibly imagined. And right there, among all those remains, DNA testing confirms it. Kim's body was there. The ghost that Sujin saw wasn't a hallucination. The missing persons case was finally, tragically, solved. She had been a recent victim of the exact same games that started all those decades ago. But here's the thing. This story, it doesn't end with justice. It ends with silence. Because beyond the skeletons, there was no other evidence. No culprits were ever caught. And the government, terrified of a scandal, officially buried the entire investigation. Sujin, she fought to get the story out, but just a few months later, she was killed in a very convenient car accident. Her truth was buried right along with her. And that leaves us with the exact same question that must have haunted Sujin. With the culprits never found and the whole story officially silenced, there is zero proof the games ever actually stopped. So you really have to wonder, don't you? Are they still being played today?